Okay, when corporations acquire correctional institutions from struggling governments, many citizens feel a sense of relief to get the expense off the public books. But once again, we find that there is no free lunch. Ernest Jones, a retired 27-year veteran of the Sheriff's Department, who has also served as coordinator for local prison ministry services for inmates at the Monroe County Jail and the Monroe County Correctional Facility since 1980, will document for us how cost-cutting can, in effect, be very costly. Ernest Jones.
I'm glad to be here this afternoon to let you know that Rochester is going in the wrong direction as far as building prisons and correctional facilities. When I started work at the Monroe County Jail as a referral from the Urban League program here in Rochester, I began to notice that when I got to the jail, I wasn't received very well because my focus on this city is to bring people to a point where we can change having to build prisons and correctional facilities. I was looking for getting people prepared to go back into this community and find employment. But first, the jail had to devise a work release program that was already in place, already using inmates to be able to work while they were still incarcerated and make money in order to support themselves as well as their families. Today, 2013, there's no work programs, there's no initiative to work with inmates who are about to be released back to the community. I have a deep concern for what is going on now in our jail and correctional facility. As the person that introduced me, I had been working in the Monroe County Jail as well as the correctional facility for over 28 years. My connection with the community has been to encourage those who are incarcerated before their release to obtain identification such as a social security card, a birth certificate, so that they could come out of the prison system and find employment. As we know today, if you don't have an identification of who you are, you're not going anywhere. I've worked with Urban League, I've worked with several community agencies who are working every day to see that this changes. Once a person leaves a jail or a correctional facility, it's impossible for them to find employment. Today we're in a recession. A lot of people are feeling this recession or in a different way. Some people have no jobs, some people have no education to pursue a job that is meaningful. We've had work release programs in the jail for over 30 years. When I left in the Sheriff's Department in 2005, I began to look at some of the internal problems within the jail system. I don't know if many of you have had an opportunity to visit our Monroe County Jail, take a tour, but we've been building on to the prison system, costing us millions of dollars. The prison complex in the United States is larger than any country in this world. We're constantly building but not educating and training and rehabbing individuals. We're looking at individuals as an opportunity to take advantage of those who are unskilled, uneducated, who come out of the prison system and go back into our community with nothing to offer. When you don't have a future and you don't have an education, you find yourselves making the same mistakes over and over. You're going to go back to using drugs, selling drugs, and not being able to feed yourself or your children. We have had many programs in the Monroe County Jail now that have stopped simply because of the budget cuts. I want to tell you that if people took more time to look at the damage that's being done, when these individuals return to the community, they're worse off than they were before they went into the prison system. I just want to say to you today, wake up and look at what we're experiencing in Rochester. More murders in Rochester per capita than New York City. Why? Because we have closed our eyes and we've decided to privatize everything that runs in this jail and the correctional facility. Privatization is okay, but not for human beings that could make the change and become better citizens and contribute to this community. Some people think that, well, they need to be locked up. But most individuals who are arrested in our city are not felons, serious felons that kill and murder. Today you're finding out that every week you're hearing about someone being murdered. It doesn't have to be in the city, it could be in the suburbs as well. We are plagued with a lot of problems. The problems are that we have allowed ourselves to sit back and not see what government is doing about real rehabilitation. Many of the young men and women that I've worked with over the years have found jobs because we had programs in place to get them started. The people that are on work release programs and rehabilitation programs for drug and alcohol who have received help while they're incarcerated usually don't return. The recidivism rate in Rochester's jail and correctional facility is going to continue to mount. We will be spending millions of dollars in the future just to hold bodies in the prison system. I hope that when we look at Rochester and we can do some more research about how the programs that existed in our jail, we've even had to accommodate infants in the Monroe County Jail. What does an infant have to do with the crime that a parent might have committed? Well, the key thing that I looked at with that problem is that we had no accommodations for babies in prisons. But now people are saying, well, we can provide clothing and a locked cell for an infant. I had one experience with a client that had given birth to her child at one of the hospitals here, and I won't mention names. She came back sick. The baby had to be furloughed out to her brother or sister or whatever family that could take the child. In the meantime, the mother died within this system. We need to wake up and realize that even though inmates who are considered violators of the law should be given the opportunity to change their lives if they desire to do so. First and foremost, they're human beings, not inanimate objects that can be moved from place to place. And to the dignity that does not come with inmates getting help is making them a lot worse when they come out of the system. I still volunteer in the jail, and I ran for sheriff in 2009. And I saw the political arm just, fold. Everything is going just fine. I said to myself, that's what you think. Give yourself a chance to just visit the jail now and see how many programs have been cut or eliminated. Our young people are in trouble simply because they should not be in a prison system. They should be in a rehabilitative position to change their attitude and maybe change their way of doing things. We can do that with very little money. But the way I see it is that we're not taking the time to challenge those who want to build prisons and tear down schools. We could do a lot more to encourage this community to be awakened to the fact that we can't continue in this direction. I say to the people in Rochester, New York, and the Monroe County that they have to look in the future. We cannot continue to build jails and prisons. They don't rehabilitate people. They only hold an individual in a position where when they leave a prison system, they can't find anything positive to do to be employed and help their families. I encourage you to check out some of the things that are going on in Rochester when it comes down to law enforcement. We've had people that were wrongfully convicted, had to spend time in jail. I don't know if you remember the case with, I'm trying to think of the inmate's name, but anyway, she spent 25 years in prison for something she did not do. And her co-defendant spent 27 years in prison for something they didn't do. An attorney was able to uncover the suppressed evidence that would have freed these two individuals. Betty Tyson, do you remember the Betty Tyson case? Betty Tyson has spent 25 years in prison before evidence could be found to release her. Her co-defendant, John Duvall, left prison and died within 2 years of release, falsely accused. We need to spend a lot more time checking out our law enforcement and our prison systems in this country. We are not going to allow, and I hope we're not going to allow Rochester to continue to build prisons and be neglectful of how they take care of inmates and do what they can for inmates prior to release. I encourage you to continue to check with organizations that work to help inmates prior to their release back to this community. I have a deep dedication and concern for inmates that are not getting the proper treatment, that are not being able to accomplish what they need to accomplish prior to their return to this community. If we did more and challenged people to do a better job, we would have a much better community and much lower crime rate. I thank you for this time. I could talk more. I did bring a tape, but I wasn't able to project it for you. But hopefully next time I come, I can give you some statistics and some realistic information on cases that I've dealt with. And I hope and pray that we don't let this slip our agendas to check out what's going on in the city of Rochester. Thank you.